So, huge welcome again. Let me take the opportunity to introduce you to REAL. If you actually do not know us, we are a postgraduate research center here at the School of Education. We study a wide variety of issues related to the links between labor markets and education. So we're very interested in issues around skills development. We're interested in work around training and preparation for work. So we do a lot of research around TVET, and we do a lot of research around transitioning from education to work and what enables and constrains those kinds of transition. One of the streams of work that we have always had, I won't say busy with, because we led the National Green Skills Program, which was a 6-year program funded through Treasury, and is looking at skills and the green transition. So that was a program out of South Africa's Green Fund looking at the green transition. So for the last 10 years, we have been studying the skills system in South Africa and the preparation of the skills system to enable the transition. So looking at the green jobs trajectories in South Africa, the skills related to that, and that kind of work we're doing. So I'm not going to read all of that to you. You can see there are two main streams. We're very interested in skill formation systems. We are not a training institution. We do not see our skills work as only training individuals. We put a lot of effort and critical thinking around what is the skill formation system in Africa, as well as in South Africa. Where are the constraints? How are the rules and tools working? Okay, what are these rules and tools? Who are they working for, and where are the blockages in the kinds of rules and tools that are being used within the skill system? And many of you will have been part of or heard, oh, this didn't work very well. So I just thought that we have over the last 2 years, we've kind of conceptualized a 3-tiered research program around skills, transforming skills formation systems to support a just transition. We've got a 3-tiered program that looks at, and we've got partners that we're working with globally, regionally, within Africa, and then nationally, okay? And we're trying to pool and really trying to conceptualize what transforming skills is going to mean at these 3 levels. And we're drawing and working with different people in drawing examples around this work. A quick kind of introduction to some of the work that REAL is busy with. Some of you here know that we've been working with the JET PMU in the presidency. That's the JET project management unit in the presidency. We worked together with colleagues at SANIA on the skills chapter of the presidency's work. And for the next few months, we'll be doing technical support with the PMU to support skills, okay? Not that, just to actually bring the partners together to kind of catalog and do an inventory of what is happening around skills and just transitioning in the country. Okay, to do an inventory of qualifications and training related to skills and just transitioning in the country, and to actually then support and conceptualize the development of these skills development zones, which are central to the skills plan for the just transition, for this energy transition in South Africa. We're busy with some work with GIZ, looking at learning pathways in the energy sector in South Africa with a strong focus on intermediate level skills, so jobs related to intermediate skilling. And GIZ is working with this idea of ALMA. They've been doing it in different parts of the world. So they've been doing ALMA examples. ALMA stands for Employment Labor Market Analysis. And they wanted to understand what is an ALMA, what could an ALMA, represent? What could an ALMA teach us in the context of a just transition in South Africa? And if you have not, both these projects are ongoing at the moment. We're at the stage of a draft report, so just drop us a mail. We're happy to receive your comments and contributions into it. We're working with ILO, that's kind of cut out, on 2 different programs. energy transition, the skills for the energy transition in SADC. I said we have a strong interest in Africa. Steph has got a large program we've been working with UNESCO, also looking at skill formation systems in Africa. We're looking at skills and the energy transition in the SADC region. We've been doing studies in Namibia, Botswana. Where's my team? Mauritius, Seychelles. Who have I left out? Zimbabwe and Zambia. How could I forget? Because Victoria is from Zambia. And Zambia, together with the ILO. And then we're looking at reskilling of vulnerable workers that have lost jobs in Mpumalanga and the Eastern Cape, together with the ILO. We're working with the PCC. It's nice to see Lindiwe here today. We're looking at skills for the labor force of the future, together with different partners at Rhodes, as well as at other parts of the WITS School of Economics. And we're looking at the labor force of the future. So there are colleagues doing modeling, and from those modelings, we're looking at then, what are the skills implications then for the labor force of the future? So from the forecasting and modeling work that the other teams are doing, we're working on the skills. And then we're looking at, what are the new streams of work that we actually don't know about? Because if we want all these young people to actually enter the markets, are there new streams of work? And I think it's very interesting that the PCC is interested in that question of new streams of work, especially around adaptation, okay, and resilience. And what could those new, can we explore streams of work that will help us rehabilitate ecosystems, that will help us clean our rivers, that will help us look at care economies differently? So it's another. We have a program together with other colleagues at WITS as well, looking at Eastern and Southern Africa. It's an IDRC program that's actually looking at skills in just transitioning. And then we're doing some work with Chieta on skills and the support of SMMEs, who are very keen on the angle of contributing to the conversation in South Africa around SMMEs. So we have a keen interest in supporting and understanding the kind of transformation of the skill formation system in South Africa. We've been studying it deeply. We've got many views on many parts of what is happening and what is not happening. And we see this seminar fitting into this big conversation that we want to have. So huge welcome to all of you. I look forward, those of you that I have not met before, there are quite a few new people here that are obviously interested in hydrogen, that have not participated in real stuff before, but huge welcome, and we look forward to chatting today. So we have a really exciting panel of presenters today, and an exciting moderator. So I'm going to do a quick, and Wendy will then. Our moderator, who's going to be moderating the panel this afternoon, is going to be Wendy. Wendy Poulton is a research associate at our center, but she is also a great colleague, and she's been really working with us on many of these programs. Wendy is also the Secretary General of the South African National Energy Association. So thank you, Wendy. I know how busy you are. So thank you so much for giving up your time this afternoon to join us. Professor Michael Gessler. Michael, we should also say you're a friend of Real. Because he's very popular. Our students love Michael because they've read his work, and he came and spent some time last year. Now they all think that he's their friend. Okay, so Michael, a huge welcome. Michael is from Bremen University. He does a lot of really significant work around TVET, and he's been also working on the Namibian project around green hydrogen. So we're hoping he's going to share some other insights. Deepak is online from the Skills Council for Green Jobs based in New Delhi. And Deepak and his colleagues have been taking some of the most interesting work around the green transition. I think the Skills Council for Green Jobs in India has, if you're on the lookout for social innovation work and work around skills and poverty alleviation, and really that level of the green transition that actually looks at communities. Some of their work and the work that they're doing in conjunction with others is actually really interesting. Deepak will be sharing the work on India's skills for a green transition study, so we are really glad that he was able to join us online, and maybe we will convince him soon to come out. Mampo, I want to say, doesn't need an introduction at Real. She's a good friend of ours, so welcome again. And I know how busy your diary is, but Mampo has been the, I'm trying to find a word, stalwart of DHET's representation in the Just Transition discussions. And I know it's tough and I know it's hard, but she's been really committed to the Just Transition agenda. And she led DHET study on skills for energy, skills for green hydrogen. So we're really happy for her to share the work that they are doing from within there. Oh, am I moving? Have they left you out? I'm so sorry. They changed your name. You're Deepak. Oh, they're Deepak too. I'm really sorry that I didn't spot that. I'm really sorry, Valdemar. Valdemar is joining us. I think this is your first visit to Real. Am I right? Or is it your first? But a huge welcome. And he is going to be sharing some of the work around that he's doing with green hydrogen with colleagues in Brazil. Yes, okay, all right, great stuff. So we're really looking forward to the conversation. And with that, I'm going to hand you over to Wendy.
Thank you so much, Prisha, and it's a real pleasure to be here today. Our program is going to be split up so that we have presentations from each of our panel, just to give their perspective on skills and green hydrogen and the work they're doing, as you heard, in different parts of the world. And at the end of each of those, we're going to allow you to ask questions to that specific speaker. And then we're going to have a panel where we have a conversation about what some of the issues are and what some of the challenges, barriers, and opportunities are for us going forward. So we're going to start off with Michael. So, Michael, over to you. Do you have a microphone up there, or must I give him this one?
This one? Okay. So good afternoon to everybody. It's a pleasure to be back here in Real and to be here in this very exciting session about green hydrogen. I'm sure that we will have another meeting in the next year or in 2 years, because everything is at the moment work in progress. And I will show you the actual status, what we think about skills need in Germany. That might be different in 1 year or might be different in 2 years. Yeah. So, but what I can share with you is the actual status. So this is our Institute Technology and Education. We are training on the one side lecturers for vocational colleges, especially technical fields like electrical engineering, and on the other side we're doing research in TVET. So I start immediately because I have, it's so a big topic. So the question is what to leave out at the end, and I hope I picked the right topics in. So this is a questionnaire the IRENA did, which is an international organization with 168 participating countries, about what are the perceived barriers to develop hydrogen. Yeah, so they say a barrier is high costs. A second barrier is lack of infrastructure. Another one is climate concerns. A third is technology limits, and the fourth is lack of access to capital. So I'm not focusing on these 5 points. I'm focusing on the point which is not mentioned, skills. It's funny, or? And that is a bit the situation I observe, or which is my impression, that we all forget a bit the skills in this whole topic of green hydrogen industry and implementing all that. So this was just the pre-words. My message actually will be that, and you will later understand why this is so important. The context is the message. And I want to share a bit about the context, because you need to understand the context in Germany to understand how we look on this topic, skills need in green hydrogen. So this is a table about how long already hydrogen, not green hydrogen, but hydrogen is in production. So we can share also the slides later. So in 1929 is here mentioned, the first plant in Norway was open about to produce hydrogen. So that means it is a technology which is not from today, it's a technology which is invented yesterday and in use since a long time. It is not something falling from the sky and very, very new. It's not comparable with artificial intelligence, which came over us overnight. Yeah. So, and then you can go. There's a lot of examples from different countries, but for me it was interesting to see an example which is not mentioned here on the slide, because there's another point. In 1960, the Apollo program already used fuel cells. So fuel cells is just the opposite of electrolyzer. Yeah. So in 1960, they already used it for the program to bring the first human being to the moon. But there's another one in 1913, which is even before than 1929, and this one. A company which was founded in 1866. It looked like that in 90. It looks like that today. They are employing 40,000 people on this plant. Yeah, this is not a city. This is not a city. This is a company. This is a plant. They have worldwide 112,000 people working for this company, and the name is BASF. So BASF started already 1930 with the production of hydrogen. So there's especially in the chemical industry, you can imagine there's a long-standing, a big knowledge about how to handle this very volatile material, hydrogen, under safety perspective, under production perspective, under transportation perspective, under also storage perspective. So that is one content. This is relevant how we look in Germany on hydrogen. A second one I want to share is the production of hydrogen was in 2020 57 terawatt already. So 57,000 terawatt, you can produce power for 16 million households. 16 million. Yeah. Can you imagine what a big amount of production is already there? And that means there are already a lot of skilled people working in this field. Yeah. But that's all about gray hydrogen, so not clean hydrogen. And the other topic is what's about renewable energy. Yeah. And here you can see, by the way, we have a new economic minister. He's from the Green Party, and I would say this is the Green Party effect. Yeah. That in a short time, the renewable energy in the power sector jumped over 50%. And from this renewable energy, more than 50% is produced through wind power. So just 20% through solar. We have no sun in Germany, not a lot. But we have a lot of wind, yeah. And especially in the north, where I'm living, we have a lot of wind. So all the wind power which is produced is captured especially in the north. And that is also a reason, because in the north we have also sure industry. We have plants from car industry, we have steel production, ArcelorMittal, that we want to connect this renewable energy with industry. Yeah? And that is projects which are at the moment running in my hometown, in Bremen. They are at the moment building electrolyzers to produce green hydrogen, to use it for green steel. Yeah? I know, or I just heard also that producing green steel is also a big topic for South Africa. Yeah, so with this renewable energy and this engagement in changing from the green hydrogen, gray hydrogen to green hydrogen engagement, if we look at the projects which are projected until 2033, you see Australia is on the top, and that is also amazing. Australia is a big country with a almost small amount of people, 27 million people living there. Yeah, but most of the projects are in Australia, and then you see already Germany. We are on the second place in engagement in green hydrogen production. Companies are already there building electrolyzers like Siemens Energy, ThyssenKrupp, Sunfire, and Apex Group. And this Apex Group, they are producing the electrolyzer in our city, in Bremen. And what do you think? How many people are working in a company constructing electrolyzers for producing green energy? In Apex, 60 at the moment. It's a very small company, so you can imagine they cannot build 100 electrolyzers every year. Yeah, it is still a growing company. Yeah. Projects. Yeah. Not the amount of projects. Not what is the value of the project. It's just the numbers. Yeah. So, and another figure which I found interesting is there are at the moment still technology in development. Who is developing technology? Who is developing the knowledge we need for this shift of the industry? And you can see this is the gray is Europe, green is Japan, blue is Republic of Korea, and this color, which is a kind of brown, is United States. And here, this very small part, is China. And that's also interesting. China is on the one side not patenting a lot, but it's the biggest consumer of hydrogen in the world. So, yeah, okay. So that's the background. Now, our Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training, they did sectoral analysis about the skills need. I would say the topic is not yet reached on the research academic level, and it's not reached in other fields of the TVET, especially the schools, because the the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training, they're just responsible for the company side. You know, we have a dual system, and they are responsible for the company side. So they are looking into the company side. They are not looking into the school side. So how good are the schools prepared? And in the figure, a projection they did is that within 20 years, we need 61,000 new people. Within 20 years, in this change of the green hydrogen. All together, in 20 years, 61,000 people. If you compare Volkswagen, hires 300,000 people in Germany. 61,000 people is nothing. It's really nothing for us. So I wanted to show you a bit the occupations we identified which are relevant in this chain of green hydrogen. So hydrogen production, transport, storage, and then the applications: steel industry, mobility, chemical industry, and heat supply. We identified occupations for all these fields. I just jump a bit into the hydrogen production to give you an understanding about what is there at the moment. So we have an occupation which is called technical system planner. He's responsible for planning, development and documentation of technical systems and so on. It's a dual training program, 3.5 years. It's already there. We have a plant mechanic, for example, for sanitary, heating and air conditioning. They are also experts for solar. They are needed for installation, they are already there. Here I wanted to show in the operating part the technical expert, chemical technical, which is also a 3.5 year dual program. They work in production companies within the chemical industry and related industries. The range of tasks includes production, treatment, processing of chemical substances and preparation. So they are already there. There's another occupation that's just a 2 years occupation because they are operating plans for production and processing systems according to work plans. So they are following work plans, a 2 year dual training. And the last, mechatronics fitter. Yeah, you also have mechatronics fitter in South Africa since last year, the implementation is going on, or at the moment, yeah. So you have it also. And another one for the safety monitoring, planning and implementation security. So our finding is we don't need additional occupations. Our finding is we have all the occupations we need for this change to the green hydrogen. But what we need is, on the one side, yeah, because we are working with green hydrogen grey hydrogen since a long time, we have already regulations, laws for that topic. But nevertheless, because now it's widening, yeah, we need additional regulations. So we have to build, to sharp the framework. And that is something which is going on at the moment from our German social accident insurance, that they make regulations for how to work with gas. And because we have already gas pipelines, so they are working, making amendment to this. Almost last slide. Additional recommendations are schools. We need people going into STEM, and that is a problem. We have not enough young people in the STEM. So this topic is a topic for the wider society, not only for TVET, also for general education. A second, in universities and TVETs, also in universities, we see we don't need new programs, new courses, and same at the universities. Another, but what we are doing is on the job qualifications, so continuous vocational education and training. And further stakeholders, that is very important. For example, there's a company in Germany, in my town, they are producing cars which use fuel cell. So the majors must be accepted that because they are for rubbish transport, yeah. So the majors must be accepting that. So taking the further stakeholders on board and show that this is a technology we can control. And teaching, that is the point they mentioned very shortly. My observation is that the vocational colleges in Germany are not at all in this topic at the moment. So we have to do a survey about that to get figures. But all what I get from feedback from the vocational colleges is no, it's not yet a subject. We are not teaching that at the moment. So the companies are very far, the schools are far behind. And now my final picture, and then I have to stop as well. So there's the work to be done, yeah. And one philosophy in designing TVET systems is we take the work, we make analysis of the task, analysis of the jobs, and we define qualifications which are fitting very well to special tasks or special jobs, yeah. Because there are so many jobs outside that leads to a lot of qualifications. So these are the qualifications, the numbers here in South Africa. You have 9,000 qualifications and 10,000 unit standards. Same if you go to United Kingdom, they have 28,000 registered qualifications. Yeah. So competence, understanding is skills. If there is new work coming up on top because of green hydrogen, sure, you need more qualifications in this logic, yeah, and mostly everything inside the IVET. So now I show you the picture from Germany why we don't need more occupations, yeah. We have 326 registered occupations, not 19,000, we have 326. They are very broad, they are very holistic, yeah. And now there's something new coming up, work to be done, and we say, this is not a problem. The same people can also manage these additional topics, because we are not training for skills, we are training for capability. And these people have the capabilities also to deal with new topics which are similar but a bit different, yeah. And that's why our analysis is we don't need more occupations, but what we are doing is CVET, small courses, additional courses for the people who are already in the industry, who are already educated and trained, so that they get additional, for example, safety, yeah, is a big point to get these additional informations. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. I particularly agree with your last slide. Okay, I think that's a very good starting point. Just to go back to your graph where you had number of projects, I'd just like to make a comment and a question. So when you show, for example, 106 projects, I would be a little bit skeptical, or no, not skeptical, that's not the right word. I think there's issues of definition as to what you call a project. So, you know, a project post-FID and a project which is a pre-feasibility study are very different things. And I would suspect that that slide's showing a lot of pre-feasibility studies, which then leads to my question. There are alternatives for green hydrogen projects, most obviously direct electrification. So I think it can be perhaps a bit misleading to show all of those pre-feasibility studies and not look at the alternatives and how many of those 106 projects might fall by the wayside. That's my comment and question.
Yeah, it's a good comment. Yeah, I was just focusing on hydrogen and not the alternatives. Yeah, but it's a good comment that there's also a word beside that, and there's a big word beside that. The projections for 2050 is that only 20% of our energy will be hydrogen. Yeah, so there's still bioenergy, for example, will be much bigger than hydrogen. Yeah, so it's thank you for reminding that hydrogen is not the full world. Yeah, it's just a small part of the world. Yeah, energy world. Yeah.
Thanks, that was really interesting. I have two questions. One is just China. It's small. You know, normally when we see figures of China's contribution to or involvement in something, it's like 70 or 80%. So why is China so relatively small? I mean, certainly compared to China's dominance of RE value chains. And then the second one was in Germany, when it comes to the question of the balance between domestic production and importing green hydrogen from abroad, what's that kind of balance, and what are the kind of major factors that are driving the decision between those two things? Is it primarily cost, or is it geopolitics? Is it something other that we haven't thought about?
Yeah. So to the first, why they are on the one side the biggest consumer of hydrogen, and on the other side not developing knowledge, intelligence properties, I cannot answer. I just don't know. The second question, how will be economical decisions about self-producing and importing? Yeah, is an economic question. I'm not an economics. I'm a TVET researcher. That's also a question I cannot answer. But I want to give a perspective into this answer at least, because I think with hydrogen, also what you see at the moment, or what we can see with solar production, everybody now, I'm already planning my solar on my roof, yeah? Everybody is now able with renewable energy, is it solar, or is it water, or is it wind, yeah? To produce his own energy. So at the moment, the world is organized in centers, yeah? There are centers which are producing a lot of the energy of the world, yeah? But there will be a decentralization coming up. So we will, in the future, I guess, we will have a lot of different spots where energy is produced. It's not as much centralized as it's at the moment. But nevertheless, yeah, it will be also hotspots. Yeah, so we will get, I'm sure we'll get a more diverse landscape of energy production than we have at the moment. So it's not an answer to your question, but it's a interesting perspective, I think, which is in the question. Yeah.
Last question at the back.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you, Michael, for the presentation. Very awesome stuff. You've already answered quite a few of my questions. I'll keep them short. I heard you earlier saying you wanted many questions. I have many, but we'll engage, of course, during our networking session. So my first burning question is, what other potential problems can green hydrogen production solve? And in that I mean, how transferable are these solutions to other sectors? And how far has Germany come in that, if there has been exploration in that regard? Earlier on you said we don't need new occupations, which is good. So you have a working model that proves that existing occupations can actually respond to green hydrogen needs, which means we can map back to the qualifications that are currently in existence and either enhance them to respond appropriately or just modify here and there, which is great news for South Africa, by the way. We need that. So it would be great for us to see your mapping, how you've sort of mapped out and channeled all of those existing qualifications and occupations to meet the current demands that you're busy sort of addressing. Let me park there. Let me park there to be fair. Thanks.
Okay. So to your first question about the usage of hydrogen and the sectors which we have, like heat and power and mobility transportation, yeah, this coupling of sectors which is possible, I know will be a topic in the presentation of Waldemar. So I give it over for later. It will be later a bit topic. The first slide is about just what you ask, yeah. And the second question was, can you give me a hint? The mapping, yeah, the mapping. We have different steps in answering the question of the skills need. So the first step, and by the way, this is a method which was developed in my institute. So the first step is we looked at the sectors. So we try to understand how is this sector changing, which technology is it used, which is already there, which might be new. Yeah, so a sector analysis, that is what is done at the moment. But then because this is more a macro perspective, then you have to go into the companies, and that is what we are doing now, really going into the companies, into the work processes, talking with the experts there, and showing so that they show us what makes the difference. Yeah. The next is also going into the case studies, so selecting companies who have a lot of knowledge already in this field. Yeah. I have already plans now, already a schedule, companies on my schedule where I'm looking very forward to this company visit so that they can tell me what is their real experience there. So there are further steps needed, yeah, to be at the end clear at the moment. And that's also something what I said, maybe we have to meet again next year and I have further data. At the moment we have a sectoral analysis, yeah, which is good overview and which gives a good first impression, but it's not so deepened. It must be deepened in the next step, and that is coming now, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael. I'm sure you will have more questions in our session later, but thanks very much for that really informative 300. It's amazing. So that's given us also a bit of time for Kate to bring up Deepak, who is our guest from India, from the Green Skills Council. And Deepak and I have met through the BRICS Business Council. So hi, it is nice to see you again. And over to you for your presentation.
Hope you can hear me clearly. I'm just going to share my screen. Just let me know.
Deepak, we can't hear you.
Are you sure? I should be audible.
Oh,
Yes, I can.
yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Just let me know if it is visible. Is it visible?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share the Indian experience on green hydrogen. My name is Deepak Rai. I'm heading the Standards and Research Division. It's a small division of a small organization called Skill Council for Green Jobs, which was established by the Ministry of Skills Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India, in the run-up to COP21. That was in 2015. And the larger objective of this particular council is to ensure that Indian industry has access to trained and certified workforce across the green business sector. So traditionally, let's say in the last 7 years or so, we have been operating largely on solar skilling, coupled with some other renewable energy, including wind, bioenergy, supported with further new segments or other traditional segments like wastewater, waste management. But of late, in the last, let's say 1.5 years or so, actively we are focusing on new and emerging technologies, including green hydrogen. So today I would share some of our recent experiences with various skill interventions across the evolving green hydrogen ecosystem. So just very, very briefly, so this is how the skill ecosystem operates in India. So at the apex level, it's the Ministry of Skills Development and Entrepreneurship, in short MSDE, which sets up the missions, various enabling policies, supported with a regulator called National Council for Vocational Education and Training, the NCVT in short. And then there are almost, let's say, 35, 36 awarding bodies or sector skill councils representing the key sectors of the economy. So there's a sector skill council for power sector, or for that matter chemical, iron, steel, even IT, ITS, NASCOM, in short. We as a horizontal sector skill operate in the green business sector. So which is, which cuts across pretty much all sectors of the economy, including manufacturing, finance, retail. I mean, you name a sector, there is a strong linkage where we have a huge opportunity. And then like our other counterparts, there are around 100 odd awarding bodies separately, including universities, some institutions of higher learning, and then supported with vocational institutions. And this is where TVET engagement also comes in. a lot of small, short-term training engagements, short-term training interventions are designed and implemented. So we implement a range of trainings across green business sectors, largely through our training partners who are situated, throughout the length and breadth of the countries. So in the next few slides, I'll share some of those numbers before I jump onto the green hydrogen part of it. But as in general, it's very important to understand our role. And like us, there are other sector skill councils / awarding bodies who operate across various different sectors, various sector specific competencies or skills, undertake a range of quality assurance sort of accredited kind of trainings, including onboarding trainers, assessors, training partners, developing a lot of curriculum, setting of national occupation standards, delivering a range of training certifications, and last but not least, ensuring the facilitation of placements in industry. At the end of the day, it's the private sectors who are the job creators. Government and players like us are just facilitators. So we need to ensure that all our training interventions are actually designed and implemented in alignment with the evolving requirement of the industry. And that's how industry engagement is a very, very critical sort of aspects in all our deliveries. So here is just a short snapshot of our skill delivery cycle. So initially we identify the needs, we undertake skill gaps assessment, and this is actively done in consultation with the industry. And here, depending upon whether it's an renewable energy developer or even for that matter, even in RE, solar, wind, biomass, or any other, or for that matter, if it is, some companies operating in water or waste management space, or, new and emerging areas like green hydrogen, battery technologies, EV, and whatnot. So we undertake that skill gap analysis, and then we also identify various job roles, like what are the kind of requirements of the industry, which kind of jobs at what level should be mapped. We call it occupational mapping. We also create an if it's been developed, so national occupation standards. So we create new standards. At times we revise the existing standards. So I mean, as we speak, we have around 76 approved qualifications. I'll get back to those numbers in a bit. And then every qualification in general has around, on an average, 4 to 5 occupational standards. In some cases, it's more than that. So, it's a big pool of occupation standards. That's what is sitting with us. We actively revise them, needless to say, in consultation with industry. So we also develop and at times revise, in line with qualifications and occupational standards. We develop and revise training content and training courseware. At the same time, we seek the approval from this particular committee called National Skills Qualifications Committee, in short NSQC, which sits at the regulator NCVT. And then basically it's a regulated ecosystem. And then, after their approval, we affiliate, or in short, we onboard a range of training partners, trainers, assessors, both them. And then the larger objective is to train, undertake a lot of trainings, deliver all those training interventions, undertake assessments, carry out certifications, and that too at required scale, pace, and quality. And this is, the larger mandate, and it's never an easy thing. Reason is that multiple stakeholders are involved, but the whole objective of our organizations, and like us, various others for representing different key sectors, is to ensure that India, in general, it becomes a skilling hub of the world. So for the last 7-8 years, we have been actively sort of working in green business sectors, and maybe in the last 2-3 years, in the new and emerging, let's say, energy sectors, new technologies critical for just energy transition. And these days we are not including solar as part of the emerging technologies. Yes, in some application segment definitely, but to a large extent we are also calling solar as a mainstream technology, and it takes some time, but yes, solar has done that journey to a large extent. But okay, I'll get back to that point in a bit. But in short, until now we have trained and certified more than 0.55 million candidates through over 400 plus affiliated training partners, almost 800 odd assessors, almost 5,000 certified trainers and in consultation with a lot of industry partners. We also undertake a lot of trainings in Center of Excellence as well. We have around 9 Center of Excellence, largely for solar, but now we are in process of setting up new centers for the new emerging technologies, including green hydrogen. So that was, a snapshot of how we operate. Here is what, typical some of our qualifications in key thematic areas. So very, very quickly, you can see on the first column. So we have around 24 nationally approved qualifications on solar PV, and in wind energy around 6, bioenergy 9. We have some numbers, and off late, in fact, just in a year or so, we have around 10 nationally approved qualifications on green hydrogen, and all of them have been sort of curated for various levels. I'll get back to those in a minute. But as I mentioned, we have around 76 qualifications, out of which around 10 are focusing now on green hydrogen. And the objective is to ensure that some sort of trainings on some qualification is done throughout the year. So 0.55 million. Sort of certifications have largely been done in waste management job roles at a certain level, followed by solar. So 100,000 plus candidates have been trained and certified, and a lot of them, have been undertaken in consultation with leading players from whether it's solar or waste management segment, or various other thematic segment. So here, just a very short of some of our trainings, including trainings of master trainers, trainings of assessors, obviously training of different candidates.
Engagement, it's an
Then there's a world skills engagement, it's an equivalent of Olympics in skilling. In fact, as we speak, preparations for national leg of the world skills is going on, and in a few months' time, world skills is being held in Lyon, France, for water technology. But we select candidates for renewable energy and water technology discipline, and then they represent the concerned candidate. They represent the country in the World Skills platform. So here a very quick sort of, again, a snapshot of the green hydrogen value chain, and how as an awarding body, we, with support of some other awarding bodies, representing key sectors like power or hydrocarbons, or for that matter logistics, we all operate, we all collaborate, we collaborate with each other. So say for example, the upstream part of RE integration, renewable energy integration, is handled with not only us, but we are also supported with the Power Sector Skill Council, which is our counterpart in the conventional power part of it. And then they come up with more and more qualifications for let's say the grid augmentation part of it, the grid infrastructure, be it transmission on the distribution part of it, the wheeling power part of it. And then there are other sector skills council, including hydrocarbon and logistics, which operate in the midstream and the downstream part of it. So if some projects are being done at a capex facilities, let's say in a refinery petrochemical unit, then the likelihood is that the hydrocarbon sector skill council will undertake all those engagement, the skilling side of it. So in short, around 4 sector skill councils / awarding bodies, we are working in tandem across the green hydrogen value chain. And it's just a very simplified, let's say, illustration. But as the previous speaker has also highlighted, the green hydrogen value chain is somewhat complex. It's evolving. A lot of stakeholders are out there. I mean, the kind of collaboration which is happening in green hydrogen, it's never seen before. The conventional, oil and gas players are coming up big time. They are joining hands with key renewable energy developers, and then even off-takers are coming up big time, and then collaborating with a range of developers. OEMs, actively working in, let's say, electrolyzer manufacturing part of it. They are also joining all these consortium and collaborations and partnerships. And then the kind of announcement what we have seen, it's really very sort of inspiring. But at the same time, we also need to see how many of those projects are actually implemented on ground. So we have noticed that a lot of announcements have been made, but a lot of projects have not gone through, let's say, the FID, the financial investment decision kind of stage. So a lot of them have been filtered out at FEED, the front-end engineering design stage, and then some of them have not even seen that stage. So different announcements are part of, a different sort of trajectory of that approval. The final
Deepak,
sort of
5 minutes, please.
Okay, so very, very quickly, I'll not get into details here. Green hydrogen, the focus areas. So we all know the kind of feedstock and then the energy carrier attribute with this new, let's say, future fuel. Here is, a very simplified sort of system design schematic of how an electrolyzer, particularly alkaline electrolyzer, looks. I'll not get into details here, but in short, whatever you can see here, skill sets are needed to operate that particular part of, let's say, an electrolyzer, or for that matter, green hydrogen production system. So here is just a quick glimpse of the National Green Hydrogen Mission, which was released by India in January 2023. Here are some key expected outcomes, including annual production of 5 million metric tons of green hydrogen, which would require around 60 to 100 gigawatt of domestic electrolyzer capacity, which would require around 125 gigawatt of RE capacity, which would lead to a lot of benefits, including 600,000 jobs, new jobs creation. So here are some key attributes of the NGHM, National Green Hydrogen Mission. I'll not get into details here, but a lot of happening at that end, and that's basically the larger policy sort of focus by the government, including the PLI, the production linked incentive, which is out there as part of this particular mission. I can sort of answer a lot of questions on that part of it, but because of the time, I'll not get into details here. Here are a snapshot of the nationally approved qualifications, what we have developed as far as various sort of green hydrogen level job roles are considered. So including for entrepreneurs for level 5, or for that matter, technicians for National Skills Qualification Framework level 4, or even supporting or called junior technicians for level 3, or for that matter, micro credential, which is, the previous speaker was also mentioning about curating small courses. So micro credentials gives us that kind of features. So again, for electrolyzer manufacturing and various other, including for technicians and supervisors. So we have approved, we have developed all these qualifications, and these have been approved by the regulator, but we are in process of developing and designing more and more qualifications in line with the requirement of the industry. And for that, we have undertaken 2 skill gap studies. One is, on the right, what you can see. This was done with support from JP Morgan. It was released last year. 3, 4, in fact, 5, 6 other thematic areas were also considered part of that study. But very recently, just in March this year, we, with the support of USAID, South Asia Regional Energy Partnership Program, we have undertaken the skill gap assessment for green hydrogen sectors, which is something very novel, which is something very unique, not only for India, but for the world as well. Not many countries, in our opinion, have undertaken that kind of study, with an exception of possibly Australia and some European countries and maybe the US. But this study has to be sort of undertaken by a lot of countries, who are making big announcements for green hydrogen. And for that, we as part of that study objectives, we have tried to map the existing and the evolving, the required job roles, qualifications across the value chain. We identified the skill gaps by consulting, a lot of industry segments who are wherever they are in that particular green hydrogen value chain. And we also try to develop a short roadmap for skilling, focusing up to 2030. And then, key pillars of the study, I'll not get into details here. So this particular study, it also sort of tried to factor in what kind of new learnings, we can sort of decipher from various other countries who have undertaken something very similar. So we tried to read out to what Australians have done, or for that matter, what the US has done, including what Germany has been doing, and what kind of how those learnings could be contextualized and implemented for India. We have tried to sort of map out some of those key learnings. And in fact, we have started implementing many of those, new attributes, which could be sort of utilized in Indian context. And we, in this study, we also tried to declutter. In fact, we tried to come up with how the country can sort of create 600,000 new jobs. So we have realized that most of the jobs, almost 50% plus, would be created in this incremental 125 gigawatt of RE power, the new sort of capacity which would be created by 2030. Further, around, let's say, 283,000 plus jobs would be created for green hydrogen production, and largely for the design and planning part of it. And mostly, in fact, out of that GH2 production number, mostly in the installation and commissioning part of it across, at various levels. And And for domestic manufacturing, in fact, around less than 12,000 jobs would be created for enabling the domestic sort of manufacturing of around 60 to 100 gigawatt of electrolyzer capacity, which would be required for India to meet its NGHM target. So like this, here is a snapshot of at what level, at what kind of occupations all these new jobs would be created. And we have also tried to map, the kind of skills required for these new jobs. So here, I'll not spend much time over it, but it just, you can always refer to the study. There would be a strong element of upskilling and reskilling attribute required with the new jobs. So we have factored it in, previous speaker has very clearly outlined as well that hydrogen is definitely not new. Yes, green hydrogen is to an extent new, but hydrogen is, we have significant experience in our fertilizer units and largely in petrochemical units in handling hydrogen since, many, many decades. And now those sort of job roles, in fact, those workforce, they would have to be upskilled and in many cases reskilled for electrolyzer-led GH2 production, or for that matter, biomass-based GH2 production. And because they have significant experience with the production and handling gray and utilizing gray hydrogen. So through the steam methane reformation route. But now here the new electrolytic sort of capability has to be built in. So again, maybe in Q&A, I can, spend more time over it. I'll not get into details here. But in the study, we have tried to also outline some priority job roles. So here you can see green hydrogen plant technician comes out as, a number one priority as part of that study. We already have a qualification on that. In fact, we have started training a lot of candidates, including with support from GIZ, and other bilateral and multilateral organizations are also supporting. In addition, some companies, industry partners are also supporting us with some of those trainings. So there are some other job roles, including the system integrators, the process engineer, largely at level 6 for green hydrogen production facilities, the electrolyzer manufacturing, O&M sort of job roles, integration part of it. Again, I'll not get into details here. We have tried to map the entire value chain as far as green hydrogen production systems are considered. So here in the red part of it, you can see that high level of augmentations are required in some of those job roles. So say, for example, for level 6 design managers, they need much more sort of new specialized trainings, including for head of designs and project heads. But at the same time, planners at level 5 or assistants, or let's say welders or technicians, a lot of them may not require a lot of, significant hand holding, but at the same time, small or maybe medium scale sort of augmentation, it could be handled relatively easy with immense experience what industry has with hydrogen. Here again with green hydrogen production and handling systems, the O&M part of it. So in short, again, I'll not get into the key details, but we have tried to map, occupation level at a micro level, at what kind of occupations would be required at various, let's say, functionality and at what level, and what kind of trainings needs, skill needs are there. And all these have been sort of outlined in consultation with industries. So here are some sort of key takeaways with that kind of study. So high level of augmentation required for some job roles, medium levels are required for some. We have also been sort of interacting with pretty much all leading stakeholders, including end users, the industries, the generators, the OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, the academia, the universities, the regulator, and trying to come up with an integrated framework to understand their needs and design new interventions in alignment with their evolving requirements. So again, for electrolyzer manufacturing part of it, we have done some sort of mapping. For O&M part of it, so I'll again try to sort of be short here. And we have outlined some crucial recommendations, actionable recommendations, including creating the demand for certified skills. So in short, industry should sort of there should be a system which would ensure that only trained and certified workforce would be hired by industry. So we have come up with some recommendations for the government to ensure that all these trainings are mainstreamed. They are made compulsory wherever feasible, so that industry only hires people who have been the workforce which have been trained through the skill ecosystem mandate. At the same time, we need to design and
Deepak,
train.
can you start wrapping up, please?
Absolutely. So this is the last slide. So we have been designing a range of training programs which would require, the evolving need of the market, and those needs to be scaled up. The quality needs to be, significantly improved. And again, we have been trying to reach out to what other countries are doing. So in fact, a lot of engagement through support of GIZ, the German development wing is also happening, and a lot of German trainers, or in fact master trainers, are also helping us sort of come up with a new knowledge on how German industries is actually handling or looking forward to new projects. So availability of trained trainers, we have been trying to disseminate right skills at all levels. And yes, very important point here, ensuring inclusivity. So the gender angle is there, the socio-economic sort of angle, that part is also there. So in short, a lot of trainings have been happening for green hydrogen part as well. It's very important to note that most of the projects which are out there in the country are largely at pilot scale. So a lot of new announcements have been made, including at very big scale gigawatt level, both for manufacturing of electrolyzers and a lot of green hydrogen production. In fact, as we speak, a lot of off-takers agreement have also been signed, not only with domestic off-takers, but also with overseas players, including the Japanese and some German counterparts. But we need to come up with sort of programs where large-scale skill interventions are designed and implemented, so that the industry grows at the required scale. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation for now. In case of any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much, Deepak. We're still running a bit behind time, so I'll take one question and then we can forward the rest to our session later. Any questions right now for Deepak? No questions. So if you wouldn't mind just then... yes, sorry. Michael has a question.
Thank you very much for sharing your expertise here on this topic. It's great, very interesting. I have the question to the 10 national approved qualifications. Yeah, they are planned. All 10 qualifications are just for plans. Are you not building qualifications for the end users? Also for qualifications working in the using of the hydrogen, not only the production of the hydrogen. That's my question.
Yes, you're right. So very quick answer on that. So there is a system. Initially, I mentioned that point, that largely we are focusing on the green hydrogen production side of it. As a developer, the RE part of it, a lot of collaborations are happening. But in case it's the application part of it, our counterpart from hydrocarbons, they are largely focusing on, let's say, whether it is any qualification for a petrochemical sort of unit where they need to transition from gray to green, or for that matter, green ammonia part of it in fertilizer unit or in steel segment. So, largely since we represent green business, so the ecosystem regulator has asked us to largely focus on wherever the RE side of collaboration is happening, as in renewable energy players in a market mode, where they are developing, they are coming up, they are setting up new projects. So not necessarily at the capex part of it, or rather the captive part of it. So here, there's small differentiation. Nonetheless, gradually, yes, we would also be, coming up with new qualifications for captive and end users, specific end use case as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Deepak. We're now going to turn to Mampo, who's going to give us the benefit of her experience with the South African study. Thanks, Mampo.
All right. Thank you so much. I think most of you are aware that on the 16th of April, our minister launched the first study on the identification of skills needs for the hydrogen economy. So I'm going to be taking you through the findings of that particular study. So this study was actually conducted as part of the broader labor market intelligence research program, which we have as a department been managing over a decade now. And we have been producing quite a lot of reports focusing on the identification of skills needs. For example, we have produced the list of occupations in high demand. We also produced the critical skills list, which is being used by the Department of Home Affairs for the issuing of the critical work visas. And we currently are in the process of developing the second iteration of that particular list. And every 2 years, we also produce what we call the report on skill supply and demand. So all these reports that we are producing as part of the LMI research program can be accessed on our LMI website. So in terms of this study, we actually focused on identifying skill supply, identifying skills demand, as well as the imbalances between the two in relation to the hydrogen economy. And we also aim to identify the sort of interventions to respond to the skills needs, because we're working in collaboration with our various entities, particularly our CETAs, which actually play a critical role in terms of skills development programs to respond to the hydrogen economy. This was just the questions that we have put together to guide the study. I won't dwell much into them. The report will be circulated. So in terms of, okay, how do I move this? Something just in the middle here. Okay, thank you. So in terms of the methodology that we have adopted, we conducted or collected secondary data and have done analysis based on that. And we based our analysis on the green hydrogen value chain, but we focus mainly on production, distribution, storage, and end use, because in the country right now, there's quite a lot of studies that have been done on energy generation. So we didn't look into that segment of the value chain in detail. And then we have engaged with quite a lot of international studies. We didn't focus on just one because we understand that each country is unique. And from our side, because the industry is nascent, we needed to ensure that we take as much of the nuances from the various countries as possible, but also ensuring that we're bringing it back to our own context. So what we have done was to also look into the current hydrogen economy, which in the main is grey, and we have found that in South Africa, we only have a small component of grey hydrogen-related skills. Hence, it was very important for us to dig deeper and understand in detail the sort of occupations that we will need to service the green hydrogen economy. And then we have done quite a lot of stakeholder engagements, both locally and internationally, particularly with the businesses that are quite critical, like your Sasol, your Petro SA, and your Linde. And then we have then identified the sort of interventions that we think are quite relevant in our context and made recommendations in terms of the way forward. Don't know what is happening. birthday pointer. Okay. Thank you. So this is the green hydrogen value chain that we have adopted, as I've indicated. Oh my God, technology. Okay, as I've indicated, we only focus on the identification of skills needs for the production, distribution and storage and application, because as a country, there's already a lot that we have done in terms of energy generation. And then on the skill supply side, what we have found out was that supply of hydrogen skills is currently concentrated within a few chemical companies, your CETAs and your research institutions. And these are the sort of interventions that are currently being implemented. For example, there's quite a lot of the on-the-job training and upskilling happening within our chemical companies. And a few of our CETAs, particularly EW CETA and CHIETA, have already started developing skills development programs to service the hydrogen economy. And we've got quite a number of universities participating within the HISA program, and they are currently looking into developing post-grad qualifications related to the hydrogen economy. And in terms of the skills imbalances envisaged for the green hydrogen economy, we are saying that the hydrogen economy is quite nascent, so there's currently no surplus of hydrogen-related skills in South Africa. And also there is no shortage, but we're saying that we need to begin to prepare ourselves, because we know that the education and training system is always playing catch up. You know, we don't want the demand we don't want our industries to begin to demand the skills for this hydrogen economy, only to find out that as a system we haven't prepared anything as yet. So we're saying that as we are currently looking into ensuring that there is a supply of the occupations required for the hydrogen economy, but we also need to look into the demand side, that there are workplace-based learning opportunities that are already beginning to be put in place. And in terms of the findings of the study now, we have benchmarked with Australia, Canada, France, and the EU, and considered the skills required and their applicability across the green hydrogen value chain, as I've indicated. And we have looked at the qualification required for each of the occupation. And what is also important for us was also to consider all the skills level, your high-end skills, your medium, as well as your low-end skills, because we know that in South Africa currently, the majority of people in the population have secondary not completed as their highest level of education attainment. And if we are to incorporate the youth who are not in employment, education and training into the labor market, we need to also ensure that there are opportunities at our elementary level. So we have identified that we will need around 138 occupations to service your green hydrogen economy. And currently in South Africa, we have around 75 occupations. But these are also in small pockets. So we had to actually use your job websites, like your PNet, your Career Junction, your LinkedIn, to try and see that these occupations that are identified actually match what is really in the labor market. So there were around 52 occupations that we were not unsure of. When we looked at the description, it looks more like a green hydrogen related occupations, but we really were not sure. We needed to, as we are progressing in trying to understand the green hydrogen economy, try and dig deeper and understand this. And then there's currently 10 occupations that are not in existence, and we have 60 of the 138 occupations currently on our OFO framework, or our OFO framework. So there are around 78 occupations that are not included there. And out of the 138 identified occupations, there were around 185 capabilities that are then required. And we have organized these capabilities in terms of these 5 categories: your engineers, your technicians and trade persons, your specialists, your management and elementary skills. For example, we require around 47 capabilities for engineers. So using engineering as an example, you would see that, I think the details are also provided in the report. You will see that the 45 capabilities that I have mentioned, they are spread across the entire value chain. For example, there's 11 required for the hydrogen production, 5 for the hydrogen storage, and then 7 for your hydrogen distribution and transportation and so forth. And in terms of the capabilities in the report, we've only reflected the top 3. For example, for the hydrogen production, we needed your understanding of the hydrogen production process. You know, that will then need to be incorporated in the occupations that have been identified within that category. But in the report, you will find quite a lot of capabilities required there. We have done the same for the technicians and your trade persons, your specialists, your management, and your elementary skills. I can't go into all of them for the sake of time. And we have also identified the qualifications that are required within our universities. And what we have found out was that there is currently no hydrogen-related qualifications programs offered at undergraduate level. And as I've indicated, we've got quite a few of universities participating within our HISA program, but they are in the main currently focusing on developing your postgrad related qualification. And there's currently inadequate expertise to offer courses. Hence, the trainer program is quite important for South Africa. And funding towards skills development in hydrogen is really not in par with the investment that is required in the infrastructure development. So as we working with within the Just Energy Transition Implementation Plan, this is one area that we need to begin to look at. And the infrastructure that is available currently is also not adequate enough to address the sort of training that is required for the hydrogen economy.
5 minutes, Mampo.
Oh my goodness, and I thought I was moving fast. This is just the qualifications overview to say that we have we have identified that 68 qualifications are needed for the hydrogen economy, and currently our universities are offering around 47 qualifications, but all of those qualifications still needs to be augmented with your hydrogen-related capabilities. And there is around 21 qualifications that we still need to develop. And then within the TVET qualification sector, we have considered your national certificate, your NCV programs, your NATED, as well as your occupational qualifications. And we have found that the engineering-related programs right now could actually assist in terms of providing the foundational knowledge and skills necessary to support the hydrogen economy in South Africa. And for your NCV-related program, there are around 7 programs that that we can look at in terms of providing foundational knowledge and the skills required, but there will still need to be augmented. For NATED, there are 3 programs. For occupational qualifications, 27 that have been developed already. And in the main, these have been developed by EWCETA and SHIETA. This is the sort of programs that I have managed. I won't zoom into them in detail. For example, we have there your electrical infrastructure construction, and we have also tried to highlight the top 3 capabilities that will be required to augment the qualification as is currently is at the moment. And I think this is for NATED. This is the sort of occupations that are there. I think what we have found out, and I think in the previous slide, there's some sort of an asterisk on the NATED related qualifications, because we only found that there's only your electrical and mechanical engineering programs that can be augmented currently. Your civil, not so much. Hence, we only focused on these 2 in the study. In terms of the occupational qualifications, 27 matched the 25 of the 39 technicians and trade persons. Occupations are identified, and as I've indicated, these are supported by our CETAs, CHIETA, MERCITA, EWCETA, TITA, and MQA, but still we need to ensure that we augment these qualifications. And there are 14 occupations for which suitable occupation qualifications could not be found, and we then need to develop new occupational qualifications. And the table there just reflects how we have, the table there just reflects how we have tried to do the mapping of the occupational qualifications to the occupations within the technicians and trade persons. You'll find more details in the report. And as I've indicated, we also need to look into our own context in South Africa. We realize that our communities will need to be capacitated in terms of this new hydrogen economy that is being developed. I've heard from our previous speakers talking about the sort of upskilling and reskilling that will be required. And in the main, as you know, in South Africa, green hydrogen activities are currently happening in Mpumalanga, which is in the main rural. We therefore need to ensure that our community education and training colleges can be used to educate our youth and our adults about hydrogen as an energy carrier and feedstock. And then the importance of training the trainer. As we've seen, most of the occupations that are currently offered in South Africa, they need augmentation. And there's still a whole lot of occupations that still needs to be developed. So we need to increase our collaboration between industry and education institutions, and more so our relationships with international institutions that are currently offering some of these programs. I've heard from Germany that they have done quite a lot in that area. So I think we will be talking to energy to ensure that we're training our lecturers as well. And then the soft skills is important. I've heard colleagues talking about skills gaps. We have also tried to look into that for those that are currently in the labor market, currently servicing the grey hydrogen economy, we need to also upskill and reskill them, but also not forgetting the kind of soft skills that we need to instill in them. But most importantly for us as the education and training system, we need to ensure that these are developed at all levels and should be identified or included in our existing curricula. And then workplace learning opportunities, we have quite a lot in existence right now. Those are the examples that I've reflected there, mechatronics, electrical, and so forth. But we are saying that they are not a lot. We therefore need to also build on the international partnerships that we have to ensure that the workplace-based learning opportunities that are available for hydrogen-related skills can actually assist us in terms of the upskilling and reskilling that our labor force currently require. The most important slide right now in terms of our conclusion, we are saying the hydrogen economy is growing quite rapidly in South Africa, and we therefore need to develop the right skills to service the emerging economy, particularly to reduce the socio-economic challenges. We don't want to leave anybody behind, hence the importance of ensuring that we develop elementary occupations as well. And the main takeaways for us is that as a country, we do have the required skills, although not in large numbers. And therefore, and we also offer most of the required qualifications, as I've indicated. However, augmentation is required for both the occupations and the qualifications. And we also need to introduce new qualification and create new occupations that are currently not in existence. There is a shortage of workplace-based learning opportunities, and we need to begin to build collaborations with our various partners to assist us in that particular regard. And then, is this my last slide? Okay. As I've indicated, there's currently no skills shortage. However, there's a risk of demand existing supply as the industry is established. We need to begin to prepare our education and training system, our post-school education and training institutions now. And in the long term, we need to work towards revising our curriculum and train the lecturers and trainers. And I know that there's already work happening, although at a planning stage for the TVET sector through the collaboration that we are having with GIZ. So the demand for specialized skills will, however, materialize before the longer term project of updating curricula can be produced, as you know. Therefore, we need to actually work on developing your CPD programs, promoting learner and trainer mobility to other countries, encourage students to enroll for STEM subjects in primary and secondary school. I think in terms of the master skills plan that we're currently developing right now, we really uplifted this particular intervention also in the context of just energy transition and the digital economy. And we also need to promote green hydrogen as an industry of choice to students and workers in declining sectors. I've tried.
Thank you so much, Mpho, for whizzing through your presentation. I appreciate it, but nonetheless very interesting and some good statistics and yet another lens through which we are looking at the hydrogen skills conundrum that we're facing. Any questions for Mpho from the floor? Yes. Sorry, I said Mpho, I meant Mampho.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting, and I have to apologise. I haven't actually read the report, so this question may simply reflect the fact that I haven't read the report. But I'm not entirely clear. In fact, I'm probably a bit sceptical, is more honest, about the value of benchmarking Australia, Canada, France, and the EU, as though somehow we can just sort of extrapolate from that and not sort of looking a bit more at the existing capacities and projected value chains in South Africa. But forgive me, maybe you can clarify that.
Okay, as I've indicated, the hydrogen economy is quite new in South Africa, and as you have seen in my analysis, the methodology that we have adopted is quite qualitative. So what we have done was to actually look into the various studies, similar studies that have been done in different parts of the world, Australia being one. And for us, really, I think most of the work that we've done was based on that study, mainly because our organizing framework of occupation, our classification system for analyzing occupation somehow resonate with the work that Australia have done in that space. I don't know if I'm answered your question, but you can always have to follow up.
Thank you, Mampho. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you, Mampho. South Africa should actually have an advantage in terms of skills because of our history, both economically and educationally, in the chemical sector. As in the Sasols of this world, Mossgas, etc., the fertilizer companies. So there's a lot of history around this. So I'm just wondering if we've really explored that sufficiently. Because for Sasol to have created petrol from coal, you know, technologically wise, I mean, we were way ahead of the rest of the world. So I understand, you know, that you've done a qualitative study and an internationally comparative study, but I'm also wondering about the richness of knowledge that's currently in that sector. I think the second thing for me is when we look at qualifications, I'm always worried that when we look at engineering, it's the process, the value chain of an engineer, engineering technician is to the point where they can register as an engineer. And we have a lot of black, unqualified engineering graduates who cannot get candidacies. So I wanted to know how I know you talked a little bit about workplace-based experience and so forth, but that's the biggest hassle. I don't think we have a problem with the quality of our engineers in terms of the foundational training. It is the expertise once they have qualified that we don't provide a transition into the labor market via companies. And we never look at that. The tutors, they come up with the beautiful skills plans and so forth, but they are not the ones who actually provide this kind of opportunity. So I'm saying, once again, we're going to miss out on a lot of black engineers and engineering technicians who wouldn't be able to take part in the sector because of that deficit that we are not addressing. Thank you.
I think maybe just to answer your last question, and I think that similar question came when we were developing the previous critical skills list. And we realized the importance of engaging with professional bodies in the process, but we just don't know if all of them are registered there. You know, and again, the point that I'm always been raising is that, you know, all the work that we are doing right now is to signal where the opportunities are, but we don't necessarily know the quantities that are required, because it is only business that can begin to make them available, to make them known to us, you know, engaging them with, even in BUSA, we're saying, we have been developing the list of occupations in high demand. We are developing the critical skills list. We're signaling. When engaging with our graduates, they're saying, but where are these opportunities? You know, I have the qualification. I used your list of occupations in high demand to guide me in terms of my career path, but now I have the qualification. Where is the employment? And the missing gap at this point in time is the role that business needs to play in terms of beginning to provide the quantities or indicate the quantities are required. I know in most, we've tried to find out when we're doing the literature review and engaging with various experts in various countries as well, it's something that they're also struggling with. It's difficult to know exactly the quantities that are required. Therefore, we will not be able to know exactly the sort of unemployed engineers that are out there. Hence, even in our study, we have added even a layer, you know, of for the critical skills list, the survey, because we're realizing that the information that we're getting from the literature that is out there in terms of the policies that might have been developed, the quantitative being the information through the quarterly labor force survey, we would not know exactly the numbers that are out there and unemployed and looking for opportunities. So we are saying that maybe through the survey that we have put together, that we issue widely in the country, we will begin to get a sense of the engineers that are in the main forgotten or excluded in the process.
Thank you so much, Mampo. Okay, I think we'll have to move on. Thank you very much for that presentation. So last but not least is Waldemar, who is not from Brazil, but going to talk about Brazil. Yes. Welcome, over to you.
My name is Waldemar Bauer. I'm German. Working at the University of... My name is Waldemar Bauer, obviously German, working in Germany in the University of Erfurt. It's a small university right in the center of Germany. We do not have engineering, unfortunately, but what I do is TVET, teacher education in technical subjects. We have like mechanical, electrical engineering and construction. Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure being here. It's my first visit and I enjoyed. So I changed my title a bit. This is actually what we have discussed. Do we need new occupations and how many? And we learned from 3 different examples and cases that in one case, it was said, we all have them. We just... Okay. We just need to, maybe we need some further training and so on, but they're all there. In other cases, they were developing new occupations and so on. So the structure of my presentation actually is, I will start with a broader view. Michael mentioned it. What is the whole thing about green hydrogen about in a broader view? Then also going into the value chain, because there was a question about mapping. How do you map all this qualification? And I think in the most studies they're doing along the value chain, what we saw right now here. In the German case, there was a similar approach, looking about the value chain, the steps, the requirements, working activity, which is coming up at each step, and then looking at the training regulations we have got, the occupations, what is described or included in our occupations. In other studies, maybe you find out we do not have this occupations. And then comes the Brazilian example. And I think for you it's quite interesting because in South Africa and in Brazil, for example, the GIZ, for the last 10, 20 years is pretty much doing the same. Same topics, same projects, and so on. So they started quite early also in mapping, analyzing, mapping qualifications, analyzing labor market, and so on. And actually had some discussion points, but one question was already answered by the presentation we just saw, because I want to recommend, please start doing labor market studies, mapping and so on in South Africa. And I was asking, who is doing it? So we found we already have the answer. Okay. Oh, maybe you haven't seen this picture. The energy system of the future, we call it sector coupling and all this power to X technology. And green hydrogen is actually only one part of it, but a very, very strong full part. What does it mean? Traditionally, we have 3 end-use sectors of energy that were already mentioned: power or electricity, heat, and transport, mobility, and so on. I put the 4th one, which is a gas one, quite interesting. And we all know about this. The discussion we had before about green energy was mainly focused on generating green power and so on, solar, wind, etc. Now we are talking about green hydrogen. What is theoretically possible, or what we need, is a flexible, intelligent connecting of all these sectors. That means that you can, for example, from the electricity side, use surplus energy, for example, in order to produce, for example, gas or green hydrogen. That can be used in other sectors. This is more or less the concept. Unfortunately, we do not have any example in this world. Maybe in your country, I'm not sure about the situation. In some countries, we have a stronger linkage in maybe 2 sectors, but others are not connected. For example, if you have your lovely electric car at home, theoretically you can use it as a storage or even feed the public grid if it's possible by regulation. So this would be another type of coupling the sector. But of course you need powerful, intelligent grid systems. Just to make the start, this is the broader view. And then again, the value change. In this picture, which is actually originated from a German organization, inspection organization, TÜV Süd, there's also included not only the green hydrogen, also the other colors, methane, the turquoise and the blue one with capturing, the carbon capturing. But I think we noticed already in the other explanations, what is the whole thing about. The production, we talked a lot about production, and some occupations we only identified or we focus on the production side of hydrogen or even on the production of electrolyzers, which are necessary for the production of hydrogen. Then the storage, transport, distribution, up to application. And this is exactly, and I think it was clear from the explanation we had before, that you look up in all the steps, find new requirements, work activity, and then, if possible, look at your different study programs, qualification systems, what you have got, and if this is all already there or not. It was also said, one main issue is the hazard risk, and this was already said by Michael and by other people. This is not a new thing, and in most countries regulated. If not, it should be regulated, safety measures, etc. Also important for the work staff. And I think, Michael, you mentioned that there might be coming some new regulation in our country. This is not new, but I just wanted to mention this is an important point. And I think the key message is within this explanation. If you're checking in the value chain different activities, requirements, then we're talking about installation, checking, commissioning, monitoring, maintenance, in general of technical system, plants, etc. And you can look at all steps, and maybe we find out we need different skills and specialists at different levels. So, some opinions, actually some are results from studies, maybe in an early stage. There is only a need for academically educated specialists in this whole green thing sector. Was some finding a couple of years ago in one study. Consequently, the answer is we do not need new qualifications at middle and lower qualification level. The other options, and I think we heard about those examples, for example, in Germany, we have all these training occupations, profiles, qualifications, or skills, whatever you want to call them, and just need to be further development and so on. Or completely new occupations are necessary. So I skipped the next one because of time. The Brazilian project. Promoting green energy in Brazil. The objective is actually, I think it must be the same like in South Africa, the GIZ project, but could be the same, yeah. Improve legal and institutional and technological conditions for the green hydrogen market. And what they identified in 2 studies, they also did a mapping, 5 new qualifications and profiles in the green hydrogen sector. And I think this is quite interesting. They designed 3 new sort of basic qualifications. It's not a technician at middle technician level, it's just a course to get some ideas about this thing, green hydrogen, for younger people, or to get an overview, like a preparation. or basic course exactly in this area. And there's one specialist course at intermediate technician level. They have a system at secondary level parallel to the normal or regular secondary school. You can choose a technical secondary school and do a technical education in public school systems or in private school systems. And what they use quite often is like a continuing training, course of specification, shorter time, and this is what they designed now for technicians in different fields. And they also are going to provide some courses for engineers at postgraduate level, covering mainly the planning, design, and operation of electrolyzers. Now an institution comes in place called SENAI, Serviço Nacional de Aprendizagem Industrial. This is a very professional and huge organization of vocational training in Brazil, probably the biggest one in whole South America, aligned to employers associations, and they work at national level and at federal level. And so I think this is important and maybe a key message for your activities. What they did is not only designing qualification courses, they just started to open centers of competence or excellence, bringing together vocational, professional training with technology and innovation. And 5 regional training centers in different states in Brazil. And the GIZ is providing technical support and funding for the training of multipliers, establishment of training workshops, and so on. So pretty much the same of activities, objectives of the project in South Africa and in Brazil. So they did also 2 studies. There was a very early study, 21, with different findings, mapping and so on. And there was one result about this: we do not need qualifications at intermediate level. And a later study where they actually also designed out of their labor market studies or needs analysis different learning units for the whole value chain, for all steps. But I do not present them now here. This would be too long. But there's a lot of material available. I'm still in time?
Minutes.
5 minutes. This is one. Just to see, only content-wise, a course of specialization for engineers at postgraduate level for reasons of regulation must be 360 hours. What they, the contents and so on, what they have designed: mindset for innovation, industrial process technology, process safety, environmental impacts, energy transition, renewable energies, green hydrogen production and main types of electrolyzers, storage and transport of green hydrogen, hydrogen safety principles, legislation and standards, economics of green hydrogen, applications and opportunities for the use of green hydrogen. So this is for engineers, postgraduate, master level, but not a real master program. And maybe it's interesting what I mentioned before, like a sort of basic course for occupational orientation, so you can take this course at an SENAI institution. It's a short one, 24 hours, could be even online, but their people are not in training, younger people, maybe they're in school or just finished, but to get an impression about certain professions or occupations. It's the same like topics, not competences, or a bit better described, Identify energy transition through green hydrogen, differentiate fuel cell technologies considering storage, safety and transport limitations, compare clean and renewable energy sources for green hydrogen productivity, identify market and career opportunities linked to the green hydrogen value chain, and so on. And some general competences they described, like logical thinking, analytic thinking, and so on. Just to get an impression about course description or contents at very different levels regarded to the issue of green hydrogen. So now the discussion. This actually was my question to you, but we already got presented a study in your country. So I skipped this. You did it already, you're just on the way to continue, you have your results. And this actually was a message that decisions on if we need new occupations or just further develop the existing ones should be always based on studies, but you already did it, or further continue this. This was actually a message. But maybe I focus on this message. I think it's a good idea. Like the Brazilians are doing it for many, many years. They always work like this. If you have a new technology, new field, they just really start early, open such centers of innovation, technology, bring together vocational training, professional training, even up to a higher education they also offer in those centers. Because I think it's inspiring. Quite often TVET is like far away from technology. And so this would be maybe one key message or a message to think about. And finally, and then I think I'm just in time, I would like to use the opportunity in a broader perspective. Now we have been talking about green hydrogen in a narrow perspective, like question of identification skills, needs analysis, deriving information for the design of occupation, curricula, etc. But we are still in the context of renewable energy, sustainable development, and I would like to use the opportunity to think about considering knowledge, competences, and other issues, integrating in all type of programs in VET systems, revising all your programs, considering exactly those issues. This is, for example, what we also did recently in Germany. We have, we call it like new standard positions or parts of the occupational profile concerning environmental aspects, digitalization, and so on. And I think this is fruitful to think about this issue. So I can end earlier, I think, or just in time. Thank you for listening.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Any questions for Waldemar? Yes,
Sanish.
Bruce.
Hi, it's Bruce Young here. So thank you for an interesting presentation. I think that the questions that you put right in the beginning are absolutely important. And I'm not sure you entirely answered them. Not that they're easy to answer. Okay, so that's not a criticism. But I've kind of thought of an analogy, and because you're German, I'm going to. So on the left-hand side of the spectrum, you've said no new occupations are needed, and we can tweak existing occupations, which I must say I strongly identify with. On the right-hand side, you have no. Let's create new occupations, and those new occupations will necessarily rely on forecasts of what's going to happen in the future. And I think the only thing you can say with certainty about a forecast is that it'll be wrong. And the analogy I have is a powerful BMW with no traction control. And that's what I see this thing on the right-hand side here, that you could end up with a lot of wheel spinning and very little traction, and that issue of creating, training people, and the forecasts are wrong, and then they can't get a job. And it's a very specific, qualification geared to green hydrogen. Personally, I think that it's very risky and actually potentially unfair on the people that you're training to get involved in that wheel spinning exercise.
And that's why I must say I have a personal preference for being more on the left of the spectrum, because it has more flexibility and is less reliant on the forecasts. I'd appreciate your comments on that.
Yes, I do agree, but this depends or relies on the system you've got. Like Michael explained, in our system we have a broad description or conceptualization of occupations. So they can serve different, not only companies, but even working fields. They have the capability to adapt with new jobs and technology quick, easily. But if you have system with narrow description of occupations, then I think there's a huge gap. And risk, yeah. So the consequence for me at least, and I think Michael will agree, is you need broader jobs, not jobs, sorry, occupations. This was the wrong answer. Broader occupations profiles, yeah.
Thank you.
The typical
you
German
stole one
answer.
of my panel questions, so thanks for that, Bruce. We got to it early. Anyone else got a question for Waldemar? Yes.
Thanks, Wendy. I also have a question for Mampo. Yes, and because I just wanted to see what Waldemar was going to say. And in as much as I identify also with a view that says we need not to develop new qualifications as such, we probably just need to enhance the qualifications that we have. And that is a question that often confronts people like ourselves who are responsible for qualifications and curriculum development, in particular in the SETAs. One of the fears that we have, Waldemar, is the one whereby we can see the discussions towards a green hydrogen energy, and but we are not able to do a forecasting that will then satisfy us that indeed things are going to move to that direction. Given the things that have been suggested as certain problems, if we look at the literature on green hydrogen, but not just only green hydrogen, but the whole, Wendy, the whole energy transition in the country, we know that there are still contestations, there are still strong views that say we need not to move away from coal. And we often remain with those fears to say, hey, we don't want to move a situation whereby then we make enhancements or changes, you know, and then the next thing, this thing come 10 years down the line, this thing in fact hasn't moved, and we remain with irrelevancies on our qualifications because we had a particular anticipation. We anticipated something that never happened. Then my second question is on your view that maybe we should look at creation of of occupations that are talking to green hydrogen. I'm now wondering because that there isn't much control or influence that we have, because things seem to be, and in different economies globally moved, they tend to behave differently when it comes to preferences, when, you know, with regard to these various energy sources. And there's other influences that seems to play a role. I think the wars, the war in particular, in the past few years actually taught us that, in fact, the industry captains do not hesitate to dump your clean energy whenever there are difficult situations that we face. So now as society, so that is also what then gives me an issue to say, hey, how shall we about these things? Thanks.
You won't help me, I know this.
Can I suggest it's a good segue into our panel?
Okay.
Because I think it's something that it's one of the questions I want to ask, and Bruce sort of started the conversation and you carried it on. It's one of the things I want to talk about is agility. So can I maybe ask the panel? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Waldemar, for your presentation. Can I ask the panel? We discussed in advance that we should chat here is about where do we need to be agile in all of this sorry, Deepak, I don't know if you can hear me. Where do we need to be agile in all of this? So we've said there's a lot of uncertainty about the level of projects, where they are, when we're actually going to need these skills, when are the big scale projects going to come. And also in South Africa, there's a lot of questions about the use of renewable energy to produce green hydrogen for export when we have load shedding going on in the country. Well, not for the last 50 days, touch wood. But where there's energy security issues. So there's other big sort of factors at play here. And there may be competition for skills in the renewable energy sector when we need it for energy security. So what are some of the measures that we can take to make sure that we have everything in place, but that we are able to ramp up and ramp down as projects become financially viable and start being implemented, and as we transition then from more construction type projects to more operations and maintenance? So that's my general question to the panel. Deepak, can I maybe start with you, seeing as you're online? The question was more around how are we more agile in the provisioning of the skills and in anticipating the demand in this very uncertain, as Mampo said, nascent market as it evolves.
Right. Okay. So regarding the agility part, yes, all countries, pretty much all leading economies have made big announcements in the last 2-3 years or so. In fact, a lot of countries have also started signing up agreements for off-taking, for purchasing, green hydrogen or its derivatives for various end-use applications. So a lot of traction is happening at that end. Companies are also coming up with big projects. Skills needs to be aligned with that. So it's quite likely that even if we start training now, trained and certified people may not get employment, right the next day, because right now there are not many plants operating, big scale plants operating at ground level. Whichever plants are operating, at least in this part of the world, it's largely at pilot scale, as I mentioned, and they are not going to generate a lot of employment. So, but as the industry takes, takes the next level, as in they change gears, the skill ecosystem, the adjoining sort of, all ecosystem should be aligned with that requirement. So we should be prepared that whenever industry starts hiring at scale, at least the pool of trained and certified, rightly trained and certified and skilled workforce should be there so that they can absorb it. So the agility part is absolutely, the whole ecosystem needs to be, prepared to come up with interventions in line with where industry wants to go. And make no mistakes, new application segments are evolving at a rapid pace. Only 2-3 important points needs to be considered. So that the cost of generating green hydrogen gets onto, at parity with, let's say, gray hydrogen. The moment this happens, automatically a lot of new investments will come in, new plants will get set up, new, let's say, requirements of people, trained, skilled workforce would be required. So that way, the entire, all countries, they have, a lot of leading countries have also come up with skills roadmap on how they are targeting, whether it is 2030 or 2050 as a net zero target, or for that matter, any other benchmark year, baseline year. So that way, at least India is coming up big time. They are also in preparation of, a specific roadmap for green hydrogen led skilling and projects. And all players, all stakeholders are actively working. But yes, these are early days. We need to learn from Solar Story and include some of those learnings and make green hydrogen mainstream. Having said that, it's quite nascent at this stage, but we need to learn from, the other RE success stories and implement those for green hydrogen. Over to you.
Thank you so much. So I think what you're saying is that we need an enabling policy environment that gives some clear signals as well, and that we have some trigger points that when certain things are reached, we have a plan about how we're then going to deal with that, because we know demand is going to increase. Okay, Voldemar, to build on the point that was being made earlier about the demand from business and understanding what that is as well, what was your comment on that?
Okay, now we had a different question and different answer because I was trying to give an answer to a different question, which is related to this one. Because I think it is, first of all, a market thing. Do you want to open or develop your green hydrogen market? Yes or no? That's the question. I think you're on the way. And of course, this is also within political conditions, but it's also economically driven. So out of this development, of course, there is a need for further economic development, skills and so on, what we're talking about. And you just started also doing your analysis, deriving information for skill needs, design of occupation and so on. This is what we've seen. I think this is what people are doing. On the other side, you can also think about how can TVET support the creation of market, for example, business, production of electrolyzers, and then it must be integrated in the TVET sector, this entrepreneurship and thinking. But I think it's there, isn't it? You have this. But think about it, it must be explicit, so this would be a different answer, yeah, another answer to a different question.
Yes, I think from our experience with the fourth industrial revolution, we have been criticized as a system that we really are overtaken by the digital developments that are happening in the country and outside of the country. So for us, the fact that this is green hydrogen is a new emerging market provides us with the opportunity to ensure that we put measures in place. For example, we know that it takes quite a while to actually develop a new qualification or even to update existing qualification. So with this, with the fact that we currently don't have a surplus or a shortage in the country allows us to ensure that we begin to build the necessary skills that would be required. As I think our colleague from India indicated, in South Africa we already have policies put in place giving a directive to the fact that as a country we are committed to growing the hydrogen market. Therefore, we see that as an opportunity for us to begin to ensure that we have the skills, you know, to support that market. We have policies such as the Just Energy Transition Implementation Plan that have been developed, as I've already indicated, with our reconceptualized human resource development strategy, as well as its implementation plan called the Master Skills Plan. We have ensured that we uplift, you know, the climate change issues, not just for green hydrogen, as well as digital economy, because we know that those are the two sectors with the potential of creating employment opportunities in the country right now. And more importantly, because we know that some of the opportunities that will be available will not necessarily require your 3-year sort of qualification, but will require 6 months sort of skills development program, and ensuring that people are getting employed. Because from our side, really it's also important that when we're developing these plans, we're also ensuring that we're reducing the level of unemployment in the country, we're dealing with issues of inequality and so forth. No, I can start as well, because there's quite a lot of initiatives that we're currently implementing in the country in collaboration with business. For example, we're also looking into establishing what we call our centers of excellence, and the main is to ensure that we're providing, we're having various stakeholders, your business, your SETAs, your education and training institutions in one place, discussing every element that will be required there. The education, teacher developments, your curriculum, the sort of workplace skills opportunities that will be are needed. I see that as a starting point for us to ensure that we are agile in our response. I've also indicated the fact that there is work happening. You know, we have produced all this research already to begin to inform the sort of education and training solutions that are required. I've indicated that within the TVET space, because that is where the attention is right now, we are beginning to actually work with international organization, because we also want to learn what other countries are doing in the space. We are working with GIZ to assist us in terms of our curriculum development. We also are working with our various SETAs, you know, and this was actually a directive we've received from our minister, that we need to put together all of our SETAs to ensure that we now putting in place the interventions that are currently required. But we can't do that, you know, without business there. And I'm looking around here and I see researchers in the space. Where is business pressure? I mean, even in these discussions, we need to ensure that we invite them, you know, to participate and begin to assist us in that regard. But there's quite a lot of opportunities where we are collaborating with business to ensure that we getting their assistance in terms of curriculum development and other initiatives as well.
So I'm from an engineering institute, but interdisciplinary. So we are part engineering, part social science, and that's the background of my answer. We think technology is the key, but it's not the technology, it's the human beings understanding and handling the technology. So if we're thinking about being agile, the key is the human beings. Yeah. So this is clear, but I heard the last day a figure. I will not repeat this figure here, but the figure was about how many people, lecturers in the TVET system here in South Africa, are not qualified or not right qualified. Yeah, that was a figure. Yeah, and so also with the qualification, develop curricula. Yeah, it sounds sometimes that the curricula is the goal. No, the curricula should support the lectures to make good training, and that is, for example, in Agile, these lecturers, when they have a lack of understanding of their subject, when they have a lack of understanding how to teach and train, they have not the Agile to decide what is right and what is wrong in the classroom teaching. They use the curriculum as a law, and not as a medium to make training, And we already talked about that the skills are very narrow, And these narrow skills are even made more narrow by lecturers who have no competence about how to work with, and also have the permission, They are also trained. You should stick to the curriculum, because if you don't do, all your students fail at the assessment, So the assessment is another point, how to make agility into the system. As I said, we are not training for skills. We are not testing for skills. We are testing for competence, for capabilities, and therefore we are also training and testing for being able to solve problems. And that is, if the lecturer is not behaving like a problem solver, if he's behaving like a bureaucrat who has a curriculum. He has to put one-to-one into place, and there's even not the capacity to do it one-to-one. So I think inside the system, to make the system ready, So I heard here to make the curriculum ready and everything ready for an industry which is not there. I don't agree with that, no. And also not with the qualifications. Why we are doing a qualification hydrogen plant technician? Why we don't do a qualification chemical plant engineer? So that they have multiple fields where they can work, where they flexibility, agility also between different similar types of works. But just preparing them for one type of a sector which is not yet there, as the colleague said, I think that's really challenging. I've seen also in other countries where they think about solar energy, and now hundreds of young people are trained in solar energy, very small. If there are no clients, what happens then later with this labor market? But if this skill would be a bit broader, that they not can only put solar energy, that they could also put air conditioning, if they also could put sanitary, then they have different fields where they can go into. So it's really risky, these very small, narrow profiles, which are just looking on a at the moment demand of maybe one company with a very loud voice. So I think there's a lot of potential just to make the system which is there better. And the key of everything is, sure, you need a policy that the people have the allowance, but at the end, the key is the lecturer there, the key is the persons in the companies willing to train young people, like in these schools of specialization you have now in South Africa. I'm really deeply impressed about this progress, about this new kind of TVET training where colleges and companies really cooperate together, and try to train and educate the next generation of skilled workers. So I have I would say give more freedom into the system and also help the lecturers, because I really think that they want, nobody wants to do a work where he or she is not able to do it. They really want to learn, so they need possibilities to improve, to learn, to get professionals in their fields.
Thank you so much. And I think some of the work that Prisha was mentioning earlier about skills pathways is showing that people are doing exactly what you're saying. So they'll take some kind of qualification and then they do all these courses and add on to or skills plans or additional qualifications until they broaden out their skill set to be able to find jobs and be more flexible in the workplace. Okay, so thanks so much. I'll come to you. I just want to ask one question, then I'm going to come back to the floor. Or is it specifically on this? Okay. Thank you. I'll come to you now, The second question I wanted to ask before we open up is around, we had discussed on SMMEs and startups. So we have looked at the value chain, but obviously associated with that value chain are sub-value chains, supplying into those various parts of the hydrogen production value chain. And obviously for South Africa and many of the BRICS countries that are represented here today, SMMEs are a really important part of that value chain. And again, the insights that we're getting from work that's happening here at REAL is that it's a number of the companies exist already. They maybe just need to be upskilled to work on a different quality of steel for hydrogen production, or some specialist safety training or whatever it is. But how do we then work together with this much broader range of occupations that we're going to need for green hydrogen. Because if that ecosystem doesn't work and you don't have the welders or the people that are producing pumps or valves or whatever in the country, oftentimes they have to be imported, and that doesn't really support localization, which is a benefit to all of us. So what are some of those insights for skills around SMMEs who don't oftentimes have the time for additional training? Has anybody on the panel done any work? I know in India you mentioned that, Deepak. Can I maybe start with you? What's the role of SMMEs in the broader value chain or in the full value chain?
Thank you for that question. Absolutely a huge role MSMEs in general, they play in this evolving energy landscape as well. Now, the problem here is that, the big players are not very established with this segment. MSMEs are coming up. They are just trying to understand how they can sort of create a value in this, evolving, let's say, opportunity. A lot of, focus is being made regarding indigenization. So producing it here. But again, a lot of specialized components, say, for example, membranes. I'm afraid most of the membranes, whatever, is being used in projects here are imported. But a lot of capabilities from the existing MSME market is being leveraged. Say, for example, for piping or a lot of, even engineering sort of disciplines as well. But there are some special niche areas where, manufacturing capabilities would have to be gradually developed. A government has announced big projects for electrolyzer manufacturing plus green hydrogen production in-house. And then there are different sort of incentives designed for, complete indigenization process. And MSMEs, they need to get on to that. So, typically this sector in general, MSME for manufacturing, they are one of the biggest job providers. But for, let's say, for something like this nascent market, they're just trying to understand what kind of opportunities they have. So somewhere, yes, maybe they can also utilize green hydrogen as an energy carrier, as an end use application, be it for refractory segment or, iron and steel or steel rolling mills or, depending upon wherever they operate. But at the same time, they're also trying to understand what are the business opportunities for this landscape. But early days, capex requirement, skills requirement, evolving regulation requirement, including for safety, export issues. Hydrogen is part of CBAM now for EU mandate. So transitional reporting is going on from 2028. It would be, 2026. It would be full-time CBAM mandate for hydrogen. So MSMEs in general are just trying to understand where they stand in this fast-changing but niche segment. So, but huge responsibilities. They will have a important role to play. A lot of business investments would be made at their part. Both equity and debt capital would be mobilized, with their interventions. Let's see. Not an easy sort of question at this point of time, but things are changing at fast scale. And we are hoping that new convergence, for small MSMEs would also happen with big players in this innovative field. Over to you.
Really interesting question, because I think somebody brought up, I think it was you, Waldemar, about different kinds of collaboration, or somebody did on the panel. So it means we've got all these different, players in the market. There's uncertainty about what's going to happen. What kind of collaborations do you think will work that are different? What kind of mindsets? You were talking about putting people at the centers, people that have the risk appetites. Are we going to have to work differently? Do we need different collaborative models and partnership models to get green hydrogen off the ground?
Was that question to me or the other speaker?
I'm thinking about these innovation hubs. So if you want to set up an innovation hub for startups, it is you try to create an atmosphere of networking and ideas and life about a product and passion. Yeah. So and what I see at the moment, I'm becoming step by step, very slowly, member of this, what happens in our region at the moment. Yeah, I have not seen the same with artificial intelligence, for example. Yeah, but this this topic about hydrogen is really pushing my region in a way. Now I'm every day almost there's a new contact coming up. Yeah, now in Bremerhaven they have set up a demonstration plant. Yeah, where I'm now invited. Then we have the company there's already using hydrogen for making products like cars and. So this kind of an environment is really, I guess, stimulating companies, engaging them, supporting them to start something new, which is very risky. I guess there's a lot of costs behind also. Yeah. So that is something I see in my region. I have not an idea if it's in other region, but I guess out of this climate, out of this atmosphere, really companies can grow, yeah, and come out, yeah. But the question is how to create that, yeah.
This is a typical example, for example, from German universities, startups and new technologies, and they are motivated, they have their education, and they are risky, and they do it. This is one type. But if this is not working nationally, I think we have to think about investment programs and external support. And even in some of those programs in green energy, I'm not sure here in Brazil, here in South America, here in South Africa now I've got it, but now in the other ones, there were also some projects or programs exactly for that reason, supporting investment for companies, startups to get in the market. And I would repeat with the TVET part my statement from before. I think TVET can be crucial to create this motivation and risk of thinking about opening your own business, not only university.
And then I give you, because I said I haven't seen it with artificial intelligence, that does not mean that we don't have it. Yeah, we have it in Germany. I was just not such a member of this community of practice where I saw that, like SAP, this big company. Yeah, they stimulated a lot around them. So because it's recorded, I just want to clarify that. Yeah.
Mampo, your thoughts?
Yes, I think we have already spoken about the centers of excellence that allows for collaboration between our TVETs as well as our industry. But I think at a strategic or policy level, there's also structures that we can tap into. For example, NETLEC, where we have business, we have labor, we have community represented, because I see that structure as quite important in terms of ensuring that we're focusing on critical things that will assist us grow this particular sector. You know, as a country, we have a challenge of duplicating, if I were to put it that way, duplicating efforts. But if we, at that policy level, begin to ensure that we strategic in terms of identifying, you know, just a few critical areas that we need to focus on as a sector, I think that for me will assist, you know, in making sure that we remain focused.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to open up to the floor. Where has... She's gone. Oh. She didn't say. Sorry. Sorry? You can take? Oh, you want to ask a question? Okay.
Yeah, no, we were thinking, you talk a lot about employment, But in fact, the more you talk about it, the more it's about the highly educated, the engineer, the technician, etc. So if we talk about a just transition, I'm not quite sure about how many elementary skills, because in everything that was spoken about, they were very reduced. So, there's one thing about reskilling, upgrading, but for South Africa, it's about unemployment of elementary labor.
We're going to take 2 questions and then we'll ask the panel to answer.
Thank you. I have 2 questions, if you don't mind. I think the first one is related to, the issue of readiness, as far as the employer side is concerned. Whether once such people go through our learning processes, will they be able to be absorbed into employment? And so, based on that background, my question is: as for South Africans, from our perspective, was this initiative, driven by the employers? Was it demand-driven initially, or was it a situation whereby the world is moving towards, skills for green hydrogen, and we didn't want to be left alone? And that's one question. And the second part is, again, it's linked to the whole issue of readiness. Now, from the enrollment point of view, I came across, I think, if I'm not mistaken, some report from DHET, which was making reference to skills for green hydrogen. And in that report, they indicated that already in South Africa, our tertiary institutions already have about 50 degrees or diploma programs in existence, which will basically enable us to actually train more people around this area. And so my question is, they said about 50, but initially they had mentioned that the whole system requires about 74. So my question is, the other 24 programs, is it something that we still need to develop from initially, and is it something we need to develop from scratch, or is it a question of maybe tweaking some of the existing programs or qualifications to accommodate those? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll let the panel answer, and then I will come back for another round. Anybody want to take the question around the just transition and making sure that, what about unemployment?
Yes, I think that's a very important question that you are raising, because I've mentioned the fact that we have benchmarked with quite a number of countries, and when you look into those countries, they don't really have a challenge of unemployment, especially for people with low-level skills. Which then means that as South Africa, we need to actually ensure that we creating opportunities for discussion to understand really what will be the needs, and what will be required for us to be able to service that particular section. I think in the report, we have identified 2 or 3 related occupations at an elementary level, which I think from our side, we still think that there's still more that we need to do, and that will actually require, research specifically focusing on the South African context. The report that we have published, I think it's just the first step. It's the first report that we have put together identifying the skills for the hydrogen economy, but we're saying that we need to build on that and do more. For example, there's one particular point that has been raised quite a lot in this a seminar that I've highlighted, the fact that we actually look into existing qualifications, tweak them to ensure that they are inclusive, for the hydrogen economy as well. For me, I'm saying that is really an area that we need to look into in collaboration with our education and training institutions. You know, at where we're sitting alone, we might not be able to respond and address some of these issues, but it will really require that we engage more and understand what is required. But from the research that we have undertaken, we know that we only have a small pocket, really, of the, be it the occupations and the qualifications that are currently servicing the grey hydrogen market, you know, which is quite different from what you have mentioned for Germany. But I'm saying that's another area where we need to begin to look into. I think in terms of the number of occupations and so forth, those are the occupations. I wanted to dwell on them, but I think for the sake of time, it's what I have highlighted in the presentation, and you may be able to engage more on them. But to respond to your whether the approach was demand-driven, it is, because all of the work that we're doing within the Labor Market Intelligence Partnership Project is to try and understand what is the need of the labor market. And as a system, we then begin to signal to our institutions in terms of the occupations that are in demand, the sort of curricular areas of improvements in terms of curriculum, as well as areas where we need to develop new qualifications. In terms of whether people will be absorbed into the labor market, I mean, I always say that we don't necessarily, even when we're training our learners or youth, we don't necessarily, at this point in time, we don't necessarily train them for the South African labor market. If we are to ensure that we're reducing the level of unemployment in the country, we are saying that there are so many opportunities available out there in the world. They need to take advantage of those, get the experience outside of South Africa, and come back and implement and assist us in terms of ensuring that we have the sort of relevant skills that are required. Because what we're also doing is that with this list, identifying the sort of occupations that are needed, we're saying to our international relations, in your partnerships with various countries which are making scholarships available, you know, we are saying begin to prioritize the sort of qualifications that will assist us in terms of responding to the need that we have in the country. We're saying the qualifications, the scholarships must sponsor qualifications that are aligned to the occupations that are in demand generally, as well as the occupations that will assist us service the hydrogen economy.
Thank you, Mambo. Do you want to add, please? Just give the microphone.
Just one comment to the phrase demand-driven. Yeah, the result in Germany of the study is there's no demand. So you can imagine that this study was not demand-driven, because the companies cannot say we have a demand. Yeah, so it was not demand-driven. Was it wrong? No, it was right. Yeah, it was right. So the question is, who is defining the demand? That's the point. And here I hear very often, also in other countries, yeah, the companies. Yeah, so. In Germany, it's not the companies. I don't hear this phrase demand-driven in Germany. Yeah, I just don't hear it. It was not demand-driven in Germany, and it was good, and it's also good to continue this, because and that's my second comment. My colleagues, and that's my second point. Companies. Very often, and now I speak about German companies, but maybe other companies are different. They are very often not looking very long time into the future about their personal capacities. Yeah, the business models. Yeah, but about the human capacities. Yeah, that's like I have today a demand, and I want today a person is coming right skilled to my company. Yeah, and just the companies who are training people, they have a different perspective because they are calculating in 3-5 years perspectives. They are training now the people they need in 4 years. But how many companies are doing that? So if we just listen to the demand of the companies, I get we got wrong. Because these perspective they have is often very too short. No? And therefore, even when our companies say at the moment we have no demand, as I presented, I said maybe next year we have a different insight when we go deeper. Might be. Maybe we have the same. But nevertheless, it was good that our federal ministry did the study without the companies saying we have a demand.
And even within companies, I used to be in strategy, and when I used to see our workforce skills plan that was submitted to the CETA, I'd be like, but where are all these other ones, because they're very short-term focused. So even within companies, there's difference. Yeah, so thanks so much. I just want to ask, before I'll come to you, I just want to ask Deepak if he has a comment on the issue around poverty as a fellow BRICS country.
Comment on poverty?
Yeah, there was a question about, we're talking a lot about technical skills, but in South Africa there's huge unemployment. So what is it, and poverty, so what is it that some of these programs can do to work at lower levels, at entry levels, to get people into the job market?
I mean, absolutely, it's going to be very, very crucial to even train people right at entry level, especially who come from, difficult socioeconomic background. So, it may not be a huge sort of job and income generator as we speak, but in years to come, this is going to be a very, very important energy sector. One of the key reasons for that is its decarbonization potential, particularly in hard-to-abate sectors. So green hydrogen is going to be quite big in the years to come, and it would definitely, as an enabler, would create jobs. It will ensure that, the market would ensure that all kind of skills are required. So people who are not employed, they would also get their share of opportunity. The sector would offer that. Obviously, the fossil-based industry would also gradually be phased out. So a lot of new jobs would be created through these new emerging fields like green hydrogen, energy storage, and various other. EV is already creating a lot of impact regarding new jobs. So it's quite likely that coal will not continue for long. There would be transition within that. So people should not lose jobs. At the same time, people are already unemployed, and there's a big, number depending upon wherever you are. So this is all part of green growth. New jobs have to be created in line with the new, let's say, growth numbers. Whether developing countries are growing at some rate, some new jobs have to be created, and all these new jobs essentially would be created in IT related field or green and emerging sunrise sectors like green hydrogen. So let's not talk about a lot on the scale part of it, that only level 7, 8 highly skilled jobs would be created. No doubt a lot of new highly skilled jobs would be created, definitely. A lot of value addition would also happen across economic sectors, but at the same time a lot of low skilled jobs would also be created, not only in the production side of it, but the entire supply part of it, the supply chain. Across the green hydrogen value chain. Your last question regarding MSMEs, a lot of people would be employed at MSMEs, and then not all of them would require, specialized skills. So it's going to be a big, let's say, enabler, a big leveler in due course of time. But we need to be we need to take right steps towards that goal.
Thank you. So I think that's why I raised the issue around localization, because that's obviously going to drive unemployment or reduction of unemployment levels in the country. Yes, Michael. You want to just give Michael, the microphone there. Thank you.
My first comment is, it's often, the education sector is often asked to solve the problems in the economic sector. Yeah. And that's just not possible. Yeah. That is the first. My second, I forgot.
That's okay. We'll take
It will
another
come
question
back.
in the meantime. Let me come to you, and then I'll come to you, Jocelyn.
Hi. So something Michael said I think is really important. So education is often, it's just the last point you made. And I think earlier you also spoke about, well, how do we begin to equip and train the teachers, people who will be training these people, right? And I often wonder who's, and maybe this is a crude or maybe it's too philosophical, I'm not sure, but who is shaping the vision and the future of a country? Is it demand in the private sector, which I agree it shouldn't be? And I think that the question for me becomes, are we missing the point? Are we putting the cart before the horse oftentimes? Because for me, what seems like a more interesting conversation, and not that this isn't interesting, but just in terms of where a lot of impact can be made, is how are we training people to think? Think critically, think in terms of design, and then eventually, to your point, follow one or several path skills, depending on what kind of country we want to have. And I often wonder who is shaping South Africa, because I think government should be saying, this is the kind of country and society we imagine, and then we should all rally behind that, some sort of common vision. But to do these things in piecemeal, often for me, it's worrying. I think it's a big risk to some of the comments that a lot of people made. And we often sit here and go, oh, we need new skills, as if there aren't already people who are skilled, number one, and we've spoken about that, and who are capable of being reskilled or upskilled. So I worry that we don't have a sound and meaningful and beautiful vision that we are working towards. It's always one thing or the other, or many things all at the same time. And I think it really does delay progress. So just to say, I absolutely agree with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, a really important point about the common vision, I think, and channeling our limited resources. Yeah.
I work for government, and my answer to your question is you should not expect government to provide that common vision, because government does not really represent society, but I mean, that's another philosophical discussion. This discussion raises so many intractable issues for developing economies. Because whenever there's some new fashion, and I call it fashion, like 4IR, I mean, that's a fashion. Even this issue of globalization, that was also a fashion, because we just got COVID and we got rid of globalization, et cetera, et cetera. And as South Africa, we always into this mode, and this partly talks to what you were saying about whenever there's a new brand like a belt, we want to buy that belt so as to be seen to be in line with the big boys. But we don't operate on that scale. So even, Mampo, when you're saying you benchmark the study or whatever to Germany, Australia, I'm already thinking we're in La La Land. Because Germany doesn't have an employment problem, or rather an unemployment problem. India's got a massive economy. Isn't it the second largest now? I don't know. It's massive population, etc. It's right there in the center of the world, etc. I just looked at the gentleman was, Mr. Rai was explaining, the size of the entity that he works for. That's virtually the entire South African education system. So when one talks about scale and this benchmarking thing, we really have to be realistic and come back to what is basically required. And I tell you, employers just want somebody who has done a qualification and has the propensity to learn and the willingness to develop a proper work ethic. That's what employers learn. They go into these forums and they tell you they want an employment ready what, and they bamboozle government and just tell us 1, 2, 3 and the other. But when it comes to their own investment in training, because that's what it is supposed to be about. They're supposed to be, you go to an institution, you have the foundational training, and then you have the additional training that makes you work ready. And that's the question we haven't resolved in this country. So Germany has managed that because it's got a corporatist system. That's why the gentleman could say, you know, there's no such thing as demand because employers, they just understand what's supposed to be required. We haven't yet resolved that question about employers and the others of civil society. These structures that we have like NEDLAC and so forth, it doesn't help us. No, it doesn't. So I'm not answering a question, I'm just saying we are not addressing those real questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to cut it here, sorry. I think it's a really important question about implementability, right? And fit for purpose for South Africa, right? Yeah. That we have to have a system that works for us and not necessarily cut and paste it. So yeah, I think totally agree with that comment. We want to give some time for networking, so I think we're going to have to cut it. Okay, we'll let you have your second point. Yeah. And then we're going to close.
Yeah. The second point is it's a bit related to what you said. Yeah, the hope or the vision that this technology will be absolutely a system changer. Yeah, with hundreds, thousands of new jobs. That might be. It's also possible that it's not. Yeah, and as you said, in Industry 4.0, it was the same. Yeah, and so it's okay, I think, to have this hope. Yeah, but the risk having this hope is to forget other important topics, and just to concentrate then on this hope. Yeah, and so that was the comment.
No, thank you, totally agree. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. I just want to thank all the panelists, Deepak online. I know it's probably quite late in India right now. So thank you very much for staying on the line with us to the bitter end. And to Valdemar, Mampo, and Michael, thank you all very much as well. Just in summary, I mean, I think what I heard out of this discussion is that we're in a nascent technology. It's emerging. There's still a huge amount of uncertainties. There are things that we can do to start preparing for it, to be more agile. I mean, and I really like your idea of broadening out the occupations, having a lot less, making them more mobile in the workforce, in the workplace. But there are other things that we can do as well. But that we should also look for certain signals, but get ready in capacitating TVETs and other organizations within the skills system to be able to do this, but it's a little way off still, and so we've got time at least to start working on the skills development. But there's work going on around the world, and South Africa, I think to the last point that was made, we really need to find something that fits our particular circumstances and works for us. Yeah. So, Prisha, do you want to say some closing words? Okay. All right, so thank you so much, everybody, for attending and for all the great contributions, and we'll see you at the next event. I'm sure there'll be another one. Thank you.